They won't let me sit on my screen. Bro, it's crazy. What's going on? Let me sit on my screen. What's going on? Let me sit on my screen. Gotta watch some videos. Yeah, my bad. Let me see something.
Halloween has always been one of my favorite nights of the entire year. From the pagan origins to the more
Turn that quality down now.
modern
My
take
ain't that
of
good
trick-or-treating, corny movies, and dressing up. I just can't get enough. One Halloween, similar to many others, my friends and I decided that we were going to go trick-or-treating. Now, admittedly, we were probably a little old, but it was our tradition, and we always had so much fun. We went from house to house getting candy and getting some looks from parents who probably also felt we were a little old. It was a largest group of people, including my current crush at the time, which made the night even more fun. The houses in this area were the ones that gave up full-size candy bars, and most people had their homes all decked out in state-of-the-art Halloween decor. As we approached one of the last houses before we were going to call it quits, I noted a particularly scary figure on the front lawn. It looked like a person waiting to jump out and scare us as we walked by. It was a tall figure with a white mask and black covering the eyes. It was hard to tell if it was a mannequin or a person because it was so still. As I walked by, the tall figure grabbed my arm, causing me to almost crap my pants. The man got down to my face and said in a slow, soft voice through his mask, "Tag."
Man, sis, what you got going on, sis? What you got going on, sis? You know what I'm saying? That's stuff. But yeah, am I'm looking good, man? Talk to me, man. Talk to me, bro. Talk to me. I'm looking good, yes or no? Yo, what's good, Queen? Am I looking good, yes or no? Am I lagging or not? Talk to me. Come on now. Talk to me. Talk to me.
"You're it." And then ran into the backyard of the house. We
Why
all
you running like
screamed,
that?
laughed, and ran to the front door for candy. Of course, we just assumed this was part of the homeowners trying to scare people who were trick-or-treating. We got our candy, and as I walked away, I turned back to the lady in the doorway and said, "That tall guy was really scary, but you might want to tell him not to grab people so hard as they walk by." The woman looked at me like I had grown a second head. I asked if she was all right, and she responded in an almost nervous voice, "You're the second young lady tonight to tell me the same story tonight. My husband's inside, and we don't have anyone set up outside to scare you kids." Now I'm officially creeped out. I ran to catch up to my friend, still thinking it was still all possibly part of a scare and the lady was just messing with me.
Oh, she ain't messing
The
with you,
group of us
sis.
stayed out for a little while longer. Some of us broke off from the larger group and began to walk back to my house. We decided that first we were going to walk by the house where the incident had occurred earlier in the night to see if the tall guy was set up for another scare. When we walked by it, the entire house was black, like they had ran out of candy or left for the night. From the sidewalk, I looked into the backyard, and there, the same guy with the white mask. He waved at me, and my friends told me to just ignore it, and it was obviously someone who lived there and was trying to scare us. Once we were almost to my house, I looked back and saw the guy was following us. I yelled, Hey, what's your problem?
You would say something.
The entire group then turned around.
Shit, me personally, man, I'm getting that pew pew, man. I'm getting that pew pew. I'm getting that pew pew. I ain't playing.
Around and tried to duck out of the way so we wouldn't see him. At this point, I think my friends could tell I was getting generally freaked out. Once we got inside, I felt more safe, and my mind was able to drift away from thinking about that guy. We all hung out for a little while, trading candy, gossiping, and watching TV. Occasionally, someone would make a comment about me being scared of the tall man, and we all laughed and just had some fun with the situation. Once my friends left for the night, I got ready for bed. I was sitting in my bedroom, taking my makeup off, and I just glanced out my window. And there in my backyard was a person. I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought I was seeing things. I went downstairs into the living room to see if I could get a better view of the figure in the yard. The tall man in the mask was now at my back door and was trying to break into the house. He was shaking the door handle and trying to open the door. I screamed for my dad, and then he saw I was standing there. He just looked up and waved at me again, just like before. My dad came barreling down the stairs and the guy didn't even move. My dad called 911, and luckily they were nearby because they showed up in 2 minutes. They arrested the guy and took him in from the backyard to the cop car.
I wouldn't take that.
I'll never forget how he looked. They removed the expressionless mask, and somehow his real face had even less of an expression. He was clean cut, with short, dirty blonde hair. His eyes didn't even blink, and his mouth remained shut. There was no expression, almost a lifeless look. But as they put him into the cop car, he took one last look back and a creepy smile came across the lifeless face. A smile of a person who clearly didn't have a full comprehension of what was going on. I still think back to that Halloween night, and even with how bad that experience was, I am thankful it wasn't worse.
No, that's tough. This whole thing could have been avoided. You had that pew pew.
I'm a 26-year-old female. This happened about a decade ago. I still remember it like it was yesterday. A little information first. When I was 13, I was 5'10" and was often mistaken for at least 16 years old. At the time, I lived with my uncle, Jared, along with his wife, 2 daughters, and my grandma. Jared started his own business as a pool and spa man, including repairs and cleaning, and lifting heavy chemicals and other supplies for his business.
Okay.
He's very good at his job. He's one of those guys people generally like and get along with.
Hold on, y'all. I gotta fix this loud, man. I don't know how to fix it. I put it on the highest thing I could. It still ain't working. Oh. Dang. All right, let's get it, man.
We live in Southern California in a nice area, and many rich people live here because the weather is usually sunny and rarely gets more than about 80 degrees Fahrenheit all year long, despite changing seasons. Naturally, he has quite a few customers that are pretty wealthy.
Talk to me.
One of these customers was a middle-aged woman. She invited my uncle to attend a huge Halloween party that she was hosting at her place. She said that he and his family were welcomed as guests. You see, my uncle was and still is to this day a huge fan of Halloween, as well as a fan of scaring people. That was something we've always had in common. So when he heard she was going to have a haunted maze in her avocado orchard, he took her up on her offer and invited me as well. Though I'm not big into parties, I didn't hesitate to say yes, since I would be working the haunted orchard with him. The party was fun and they had good catered food, but I mostly stuck to my family
Man, where the pizza at, bro?
members, trying my best to enjoy the party. But I was much more excited about working the maze. About an hour before the maze opened up, my uncle and I went to go and get ready in our costumes.
Talk to me.
He went off to one of the vacant parts of her huge house, while I went to get ready in the guest house. My job was to be more of a distraction for the people to pass by in the maze. I was dressed in a shorter Victorian-era dress, with fake stage blood covering my body and clothes. Overall, I looked as if I'd been hung by a noose from one of the orchard trees. The plan was to have small groups going into the maze, one group at a time, and I was to be still, drawing people's sights away from Jared, who dressed as Michael Myers with an actual chainsaw, which didn't really.
Man, shit, all this what I be talking about, bro. See, this that mayonnaise stuff I be talking about, bro. But why you gotta ask for a chainsaw? I ain't gonna say nothing.
They match his character. He was right across the path from me, hidden in the shadows. He would then rev up the chainsaw, and people would run screaming while he chased them down the path. Half an hour into the job, and everything went without a hitch. But that didn't last. I heard some loud talking down the dark path, so I got back into character, amused by people's drunken screams. I could hear about 5 different voices then. They all sounded like men. Their words were slurred, so I assumed they'd been drinking. The hostess had served alcohol at the party, so I didn't think twice on it. A lot of people drank before going into the maze. I had an uneasy feeling growing in my gut, but I completely ignored it. After all, I was a naive 13-year-old girl who thought she would be safe at a private party.
Who told you that?
I remember thinking that my uncle had been nearby, so I wasn't all too worried.
I gotta get there. I got caught that P5.
Well, looky there, one of them said. I heard someone laugh and make catcalls. She's a cutie. I remember my breath freezing in my chest.
He a freaky boy. He a 69 guy. That boy freaky, boy.
And my uneasiness returned. I was the only person visible, so I knew that they had to be talking to me. I tried to look out into the dark, but I couldn't see anyone due to a spotlight that was shining on me from my feet. It wasn't until they were about 15 feet away that I finally see the outlines of these men. Wow, she is, another man said as they walked closer to me. I was past the point of unease and just plain scared, so much so that I completely froze in fear. Though taller than most, I was still just a kid, and all 5 of these men were about my height or taller. There was no way to fight off or run from them. The men approached me, and I remember they completely reeked of booze. Only 1 or 2 of the guys' faces were half illuminated by the spotlight. The others' faces were at an angle where they were completely black from the shadow. And I remember cursing the spotlight for shining directly in my face. Hey there, baby, one of them said, getting closer to me. He was literally only inches from me as he and another guy reached out their hands to touch me. How about we leave this place and go have some fun instead? Get away from me, I remember saying, finally finding my voice. Aw, baby, don't be like that, he dragged out. By this point, his other friends were surrounding me to where I was blocked off completely.
Crazy, bro.
I looked past them to my uncle's area, but I didn't see him anywhere. He must have chased that last group further down the path. I was completely alone. The man had reached toward my chest, but I slapped his hand away as hard as I could.
Your chest?
I said, get away from me. My heart beat so loud and fast in my ears. I turned and tried pushing past them so I could run down the path and find Jared. But they used their bodies to make a wall and keep me from leaving. What's the matter? Are we not good enough for you? One of them said, taking hold of my arm. I pulled it against his grasp to try and run, and I mentally prepared for the worst. I remember taking in a deep breath to scream, hoping that someone would take it as an actual sign I was in trouble, not just another person who was being chased in the labyrinth. Then suddenly, I heard the beginning rev of a chainsaw, and all the men looked off in the darkness, where my uncle's figure as Michael Myers appeared in the reflecting glow from my spotlight. I'd never been so grateful to see a serial killer icon in my life. What are you doing to my niece? He demanded, rapidly stepping closer to them. I remember being...
No, you better than me, man. Listen, I'm carrying a chainsaw like this. Hey, so what y'all doing to my nigga? Come on, bro.
So relieved, to the point of almost crying. But I stopped myself.
My fault, y'all.
From the look on these men's faces, this 6'4" man, who was strongly built, did the job he worked 6 to 7 days a week, dressed in an orange prison jumpsuit, a Michael Myers mask, and a very real chainsaw in his hands, translated to someone who could easily mess them up for messing with his niece. They started to back away from me, but one guy smiled nervously and said, "Hey man, it's cool, we're just leaving." Then he turned to me, and he said with this eerie, disturbing smile, "We'll see you later, babe." His hand brushed lightly over my stomach.
Come on, bro.
I froze again, chills running up and down my spine. The man then ran off down the path, my uncle cussing at them and threatening to call the cops as they scurried off even faster.
It's crazy, bro.
He would have run after them, probably would have done something drastic too, if I hadn't run over into his arms and began to cry. I was shaking violently as the adrenaline wore off. He hugged me, then pulled out his cell phone to call my grandma. She soon arrived, and all three of us went to go and find the hostess to tell her what happened. Sadly, I don't think she was able to do anything, due to me only being able to give vague descriptions of the men, as they were mostly in shadow. And if she did, and I certainly didn't hear anything about it. Even to this day, I can't help but think what could have happened to me that night if Jared hadn't shown up when he did. There's been a couple of times where the lady has thrown more Halloween parties. I still go and work for the haunted maze, but I'm never in direct view anymore. I will actively partake in scaring the people. I've yet to be harassed like that ever again while working there, especially since I found out my true scare tactic, crawling like a fast-moving grudge towards people. I have 3 pieces of advice to anyone who works in a haunted attraction of sorts. 1. Just because you work there doesn't mean people won't start trouble with you, even during a private event.
Talk to me.
2. Always be close to another worker, just in case something happens.
Talk to me.
And 3. Always be aware of your surroundings. Just because you're the one doing the scaring doesn't mean you won't be the one to have experienced traumatic events by the end of the night.
Facts.
The Treehouse, from Dark Rider 88. Halloween was always my favorite holiday growing up. Dressing up, eating candy, pulling pranks. What's not to love? But ever since that one Halloween night when I was 12 years old, I've never looked at October 31st the same way again. I grew up in a quiet suburb of Denver full of families and kids my age. My parents had moved there when I was young, because it seemed like such a safe, friendly neighborhood. And it was, for the most part. But maybe nowhere is totally safe from the darker side of things. Halloween in our community, everyone would decorate their houses, and kids would spend weeks picking out costumes and planning trick-or-treat routes to hit the best candy spots. My friends and I loved sorting through our halls after a long night knocking on doors. I had 2 best friends who lived on my block, Josh and Tyler. One year when we were 12, on Halloween afternoon, we hung out in the treehouse in my backyard, planning out our costumes and strategies for that night. We were going to go as the Ghostbusters crew, complete with homemade proton packs my dad helped us build.
Talk to me.
We could barely contain our excitement as we helped each other with our costumes before heading out around dusk. It was the perfect night, just chilly enough to warrant a jacket, clear skies, and a bright moon. Josh, Tyler, and I set out with our parents trailing behind to supervise. We made our way up and down the neighborhood streets, ringing doorbells and yelling the usual trick or treat at each house. Things were going great. Our bags were loaded up with candy in no time. After a couple hours, we were ready to call it quits. Josh and Tyler came back to my house so we could go through our halls together. We dumped out all the goods on the floor of the treehouse and started sorting it into piles. Chocolate, fruity candy, and salty snacks.
Let me see what y'all boys got, man. Your boy got Doritos, but your boy about to be kicking. You got Cheetos, your boy about to be kicking. Oreo, you about to get high cholesterol. Snicker, you about to turn into a snitch. Lay's, you might get laid tonight. You know what I'm saying? Lollipop. Let me stop, bro.
We were deep in trading negotiations when Tyler said he had to pee. The restrooms were all the way inside, so he said he'd just duck behind a tree at the back of the yard. Josh and I went back to swapping candy as we waited. A couple minutes passed, and Tyler still wasn't back. Josh and I joked that maybe he fell in, but when it had been over 5 minutes, we started to get worried. The tree Tyler went behind was only like 20 feet from the treehouse. There's no way using the bathroom would take this long. Josh and I climbed down from the treehouse and slowly walked toward where we last saw Tyler head. As we made our way across the lawn, the wind picked up, scattering leaves at our feet. The moon above was obscured by clouds passing in front of it. We were halfway to the tree when a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. It sounded like Tyler, but twisted and raw in a way I'd never heard before. Josh and I froze, staring wide-eyed at each other. Then we heard it again, that awful guttural scream coming from the dark shape of the tree. We ran inside, yelling for our parents. My dad and Josh's mom came sprinting out. We were crying, trying to explain what we heard. The adults searched the backyard with flashlights, but found nothing. No sign of Tyler or whatever made that horrifying sound. Josh's mom ran to Tyler's house, while my dad called 911. The police showed up, but also found no trace of him. Needless to say, trick-or-treating was over for the night. Josh's mom stayed with us as we all anxiously awaited news. Around midnight, a knock finally came at the door. It was Tyler, escorted by a police officer. He looked completely normal, not scared or hurt at all.
That's a clone, bro.
When we asked what happened, he seemed confused. Tyler said he just went to pee behind the tree and came right back, but we weren't in the treehouse anymore. He assumed we went inside without him. Of course, we were incredulous. There's no way Tyler could have made it back to the treehouse without us seeing him in that tiny backyard. And we definitely heard those screams that sounded just like him. Tyler insisted he never screamed and that he just took a quick pee break. Our parents were disturbed and relieved at the same time.
He said T for toilet.
We
What is
were all
that?
sufficiently freaked out, so Tyler just went home after that. I slept with the covers over my head that night,
I can watch it. Y'all want me to
listening for
watch
any
it?
screams from outside my window, but none came. The next day, things felt relatively back to normal. We still had fun trading candy and telling ghost stories like any other post-Halloween, but there was an unspoken unease whenever we made eye contact. Each of us knew what we heard and that it didn't come from our friend. Tyler moved away the next year, and Josh and I drifted apart in high school. But we've never spoken about that night again. I haven't been trick-or-treating since, even now in my 20s. I get anxious as soon as the sun starts going down on Halloween. These days, shadows seem to move in a way they shouldn't, carrying whispers of the unexplained. Whatever terrifying presence visited my backyard that night, I don't intend to encounter it ever again.
We don't want no smoke with that guy.
I just came around to say hello. Hello, Moto.
Interested in modeling and acting?
Bro.
Calling all kids and...
Come on with that BS, bro. Come on with that BS. Nobody's trying to hear this, bro.
Took place back in 2016, during the clown craze that was going on. My local church has a Halloween-themed carnival every year, and my friends and I decided it would be fun to help out with setting up the carnival and helping run the games. I met up with my friends A and C after school the day of the festivities, because where it was being held was within walking distance of our high school. On our way there, we noticed a man in a clown costume standing right near one of the houses, which was next to the high school.
Yeah, he would have got shot.
I was already nervous
He would have got shot, bro. It's pew pew. I ain't playing.
of clowns to begin with, so when I saw him, I instantly
He would have got shot with his Gen 5 switch, bro. I'm not playing, bro.
became paranoid, but I brushed it off. It was Halloween after all, and it was probably just someone dressed up for trick-or-treating, even though it was a bit early, at 3 p.m. We continued walking on down to the clearing where the carnival was being held. We helped things get set up and got into our costumes. Before long, we were having a great time. At about 7 p.m., there weren't that many people left showing up. So we took off walking around the downtown area. More specifically, one of the nearby streets. They go all out for Halloween here, and A really wanted to see the decorations. C and I agreed.
Hold on, y'all. Let me scan the basket, bro. So she a nun, she a witch, and she a vampire. Or she Dracula. Like, I'm tweaking, bro. Oh no, I know my business. I keep going, bro.
So off we went. There were skeletons and headstone decorations and tall inflatables as far as the eye could see. We were mesmerized by it all. It took us a minute to notice the same clown guy from earlier standing near one of the headstones.
No.
His costume had fiery orange hair, and the makeup on the mask was funny, as if he just painted over the makeup that was already on it. His clothing was black and white striped, with a huge black and white polka dot neck collar. I was creeped out at that point, but A and C thought it would be marvelous to taunt him and make fun of his costume.
Now, who came up with that idea, bro? Whoever came up with that idea, y'all need to ban her from the friend group, bro. She clearly is a little bit started, man. Why is you even messing with people unprovoked, bro? What? As soon as you see somebody decline, your best thing to do is just watch your surroundings, make sure he ain't doing nothing weird, and keep it pushing. Bro, you tweaking, bro.
I was like, guys, you shouldn't do that. Let's just go.
Facts.
After throwing a few more insults, they gave in to my pleas. We turned and walked back in the direction we came from, away from that clown.
Y'all tweaking, bro.
Now, there's a store at the end of the street, and a little further down is a donut shop. But in between the two was a long path that went right through a wooded area that had little to no lighting at all, and was very creepy at night. C spoke up, saying, "Why don't we walk this way? There's no cars, so we'd be less likely to get run over." As if that would happen, A said. We started walking carefully down the path, beginning to talk about the typical stuff teenage girls talk about. Boys we liked, people we couldn't stand, so on and so forth. We heard footsteps fast approaching behind us. We turned around. There was the same clown we'd already seen twice that night.
That boy Art the Clown,
but instead of just standing still and staring...
Hold on, y'all. This Art the Clown, bro. Hold on, this is on, bro. Hold on. Hey, y'all, that Art the Clown right there, y'all. That Art the Clown. Look, y'all, that Art the Clown. Y'all see Art the Clown? That boy Art the Clown. Bro, what the freak, bro? He got 4 movies. I ain't know that. Species. Come on, he a species? What do you mean? I got safe search on. Y'all feel oh no, I need to get away from this. Oh nah, I ain't hey, YouTube don't demonetize me, bro. Don't demonetize me. I ain't want no smoke, bro.
Staring at us. He was now running at a full sprint towards us.
Oh, that boy gone.
He was waving
he ain't playing.
what looked to be a butcher knife.
Oh, he ain't playing. He
like some sort of maniac.
He
We took off as fast as we could. Running the carnival was
they running like this.
He was
they going crazy.
God, he must have tripped over a fallen branch. Because when we turned around, he was slowly getting back up off the ground.
That boy stopped himself.
We did not waste the opportunity. We took off, finally making it back to the carnival. When we got there, we explained to our pastor what happened. He ended up calling the police. Eventually, an officer showed up, taking our statements and searching the nearby area. He found nothing, save for the knife the clown had laid in the dirt where he'd fallen. Our pastor took us home, as we were too scared to be out anymore. This may not be the scariest story, but it's definitely one that has stuck with me for years.
For real, that's tough, bro. That's tough, man. That boy Art the Clown. But y'all said something called T is for toilet, man. Let me see what it's called, bro. T is for I don't even know what this is. Let me see what this is, though. Yeah, I'm not watching that, bro. No, Molly, I'm not watching that, Molly. Molly, no, Molly. Molly, I'm not watching that, bro. Molly, I'm not watching that, bro. What you got going on, bro? I'm not watching that, bro. Let me go ahead and remove that from my search, bro. I'm not watching that, bro. I'm not watching that, bro. You been find something else for me to watch, bro. I'm not watching that, bro. Like, why would I even watch that? Come on, man. With that BS, bro. Come on, some watch that. I'm not watching that, bro. I'm not watching that. I'm not watching that, bro. I'm not doing that, bro. There's no way he told me to watch it. Why would I watch it? Come on, bro. Hey, y'all know my look, y'all know my laptop touch screen? Hey, y'all look at Bior, man. Look at Bior, bro. Hold on, y'all. Look at Bior, bro. Hold on, y'all. Look at Bior, bro. Look at Bior. So inspirational, bro. Oh, no, I forgot copyright. Forgot a copyright. Forgot a copyright. Chill, y'all. Forgot a copyright, bro. I forgot a copyright, bro. I love to watch the game with y'all, but everything copyright on YouTube, huh? Like, real talk, bro. Everything copyright, bro. Watch Squidward can't escape his, you know what? That got my attention. I come on watch it. It just caught my attention. Let's watch it. Bump it.
If you want the perfect tool to help you with your writing, Grammarly.
Man, sis, man. Come on, sis. Man, get off my phone with that BS, bro.
Squidward Q Tentacles hates his job, but for some reason, he can't quit. Well, the truth is,
Let my video start over. Y'all, we about to see why Squidward can't escape his job, bro. What's y'all prediction? Why y'all think he can't escape his job, bro?
Squidward Q Tentacles hates his job, but for some reason, he can't.
Hold on, I just scanned the battle. That say Squidward tennis balls, bro?
Squidward Q Tentacles.
The Squidward Q tennis ball is crazy. I know I was tweaking.
Hates his job, but for some reason, he can't quit. Well, the truth is, someone is controlling Squidward, making it so he can't leave his job. Join me as we figure out why Squidward can't quit his job. So it's no secret that Squidward hates his job, but why would he be working there if he hates it? And before we go on, I know the show needs Squidward to be the cashier at the Krusty Krab to keep its humor. But thinking from Squidward's perspective, why would you work a job that you hate? Why wouldn't you just quit? Part 1. Squidward quitting his job. Surprisingly, Squidward has quit his job on numerous occasions. In the episode Big Pink Loser, Patrick was hired by Mr. Krabs. For some reason, he seems happy to leave his position, but towards the end of the episode, we see him rejoin the Krusty crew after SpongeBob and Patrick leave. Just before going back, we see him reading the newspaper showing he had nothing better to do and probably wasn't able to get a job. Then, in the episode Bossy Boots, Squidward ends up quitting his job after Pearl changes the Krusty Krab. We don't see him get rehired in the episode, but it probably happened after Pearl was fired. Then, in the episode Krusty Towers, Squidward quits his job to become a guest at the Krusty Towers. We don't see him get rehired, but he probably was once the Krusty Towers became the Krusty Krab again. After that, in the episode Chum Fricassee, Squidward quit his job at the Krusty Krab, but unlike the other times, this time he actually got a job at the Chum Bucket. This marked the first time when Squidward quit and actually found a new job. Once again, we don't see him get rehired, but he probably was. Then, in the episode Boss for a Day, Squidward quit his job, but unlike any other time, SpongeBob was in charge of the Krusty Krab. This was the only time when Squidward quit his job, is the thing, when he believes that he's gonna become famous. But after learning that he
I ain't gonna lie, Squirrel, man. You done quit your job like 30 million times, man. You gotta do something else, bro. Real talk.
Actually isn't going to become famous, he walks back in and takes his position.
I sent him my play and now he's gonna produce it. I quit. We will not be doing your play.
That ain't even funny, bro. Why they always playing with my boy Squidward top, bro? Like, come on, man. My boy Squidward ain't did nothing bad, bro.
Remember this clip, because it's going to be very important later. Squidward also quit his job in the episode Goodbye Krabby Patty after Mr. Krabs was about to fire him. The interesting part in this episode is that he had his resignation speech ready. Also, Squidward—
Hey, hold on, y'all. Let me get my getaway real quick. Let's go.
Squidward struggled to get a job and was forced to come back to the Krusty Krab. Finally, the biggest example of Squidward quitting his job was in the episode Can You Spare a Dime? In the episode, Squidward is accused of stealing one of Mr. Krabs' dimes. Because of this, Squidward decides to quit his job. As the episode goes on, we learn that Squidward—
Spare change, man. I remember this episode, boy.
Couldn't find a new job and actually became homeless.
I'm not watching that video,
but Squidward ended up taking advantage of him. This drove SpongeBob crazy, who forced Mr. Krabs to give Squidward his job back. So in all the episodes, Squidward quit his job only to come back. Only in the episodes Can You Spare a Dime, Goodbye Krabby Patty, and Chum Fricassee did he actually try to find a new job. All the other times, he quit and then just came back a little later. But the reason Squidward was able to come back was because he quit his job. If he was fired, then he wouldn't be able to come back and would be forced to look for a new job. Well, Squidward was only fired once in the entire show. The only time Squidward was fired was in the episode Squid on Strike, where he and SpongeBob were fired for planning to go on strike. After being fired, they decided to strike, and after a lot of protesting, Mr. Krabs gave them their jobs back. But while discussing the terms, SpongeBob used everything he'd learned from Squidward and ended up destroying the Krusty Krab. Because of this, Mr. Krabs claimed that the two would work for him forever. And that's it. That's why Squidward can't quit his job, because he and SpongeBob are forced to work for Mr. Krabs for the rest of their lives. Thank you for watching. Is what I would say if it wasn't for two things. The first is that Squidward has quit his job a ton of times after Season 2, without Mr. Krabs really saying anything. The second and even bigger reason is because in the Season 9 episode SpongeBob You're Fired, Mr. Krabs fired SpongeBob, which shows that he doesn't really care about what he said back in Season 2. Both of these two reasons diminish any claim that the two would have to work for him forever. So then, why can't Squidward find a job whenever he quits the Krusty Krab? Why is he forced to come back? Well, in the episode Goodbye Krabby Patty, Squidward explains that he couldn't follow his dreams because 17 years as a cashier is not good enough.
Apparently, you need more than 17 years behind a cash register to be qualified for—
Dang, Squidward, 17 years, bro? But I ain't knew 17 years ridiculous, but I ain't knew that, bro. I didn't do that.
Dreams.
But this doesn't add up with SpongeBob's story when he was fired. When SpongeBob was fired, he actually got hired by multiple places. So if SpongeBob, who wasn't even born when Squidward was working at the Krusty Krab, can find a job with less experience, then why can't Squidward? What is wrong with him? Is he even trying to find a job? Part 2. Squidward's Desires. What's interesting is that it seems that Squidward isn't even trying—
Yo, Squidward almost been a cashier. Same amount of time been alive. What the freak, bro?
trying to find a job because he wants to keep the job that he hates. After being fired in the episode Squid on Strike, he realizes that he's going to be stuck striking forever for his job with SpongeBob, and so he decides to beg for his job back. Not once does he think about trying to get a new job. Instead, he wants to get his old job back where he has to work with SpongeBob. It's no secret that Squidward hates his job and would leave if he could. Not only do we see this in Squidward's dreams in the episode Squidward's Sick Days, but also Mr. Krabs knows that he hates his job and uses it against him. In the episode Whale Watching, Mr. Krabs uses SpongeBob to threaten Squidward to babysit Pearl. So with all Squidward beg for a job he desperately hates. The only reason he would do so is out of desperation, to make sure that he doesn't go homeless. Or does he? In the Season 2 episode Squidville, Squidward moves to a gated community for squids to get away from SpongeBob and Patrick. But his life starts to get repetitive and he starts to miss the chaos caused by his neighbors. But there's one thing everyone seems to miss. In the montage, we see a total of 14 days go by, and not once does Squidward attend his job at the Krusty Krab. On top of that, Squidward misses the chaos caused by SpongeBob and Patrick, meaning he hasn't seen them in 2 weeks. Also, we see canned bread every day. How can he afford it without a job? He bought his house in the community by selling his own house, but how can he afford to buy things when he doesn't have a job? Well, maybe he has savings. His savings would also explain why Squidward went broke after a while in the episode Can You Spare a Dime? Had some savings to live off of while looking for a job, but once they ran out, he became homeless. So it was probably a good thing that Squidward got bored of his life, otherwise he would have run out of money real soon. Also, I thought I would mention that we only see him buy canned bread. Canned bread doesn't scream gourmet food like ramen for broke college students. In other words, Squidward can't afford real bread. That's kinda depressing. So now we know that Squidward needs a job to survive, but why can't he get any other job? Why does he have
Well, I'm like, my Wi-Fi bad. My school Wi-Fi.
You can literally watch the ads disappear in real time.
Come on, man, bro. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. I don't hear that, man.
Part 3. Why the Krusty Krab? In the episode Goodbye
Krusty
Krabby
Krab,
Patty,
peace
Squidward
out.
quits his
Is
job
that
after
peace
getting
out from
fired.
you and
After
me?
storming out, he comes back needing his job, claiming that 17 years as a cashier is not good enough to do anything. But we already know this isn't a good excuse because SpongeBob's gotten multiple job offers after getting fired. Some of the places Squidward could work in Bikini Bottom are diners, the Bargain Mart, or Fancy, the fancy restaurant. One important thing about the fancy restaurant was in the episode The Big Switch. Basically, in the episode, SpongeBob gets traded to the fancy restaurant for a gourmet chef for the Krusty Krab. But why would Mr. Krabs trade SpongeBob? Why not Squidward? Before we even go there, let me address something really quickly that I know will flood the comments if I don't. Yes, I'm aware that it's a chef exchange program, but Squidward can also cook Krabby Patties. In the episode Employee of the Month or Bubble Buddy, Squidward cooks Krabby Patties perfectly. In the episode Breath of Fresh Squidward, Mr. Krabs claims that Squidward is as good a cook as SpongeBob.
You know, he might be as good a fry cook as you.
And this shows because in the episode SpongeBob Longpants, Squidward replaces SpongeBob as. While I personally don't agree that flipping burgers makes you a chef, when SpongeBob goes there, the only thing he can do is make Krabby Patties. Squidward would have been just as useful as him. So why would Mr. Krabs send SpongeBob, his loyal and underpaid chef, to the fancy restaurant in the exchange program instead of Squidward? Does Mr. Krabs maybe need Squidward? Part 4. Was most likely Mr. Krabs' first employee. He's been working at the Krusty Krab since before SpongeBob and even before Jim, who was the and in the episode The Original Fry Cook. But none of this explains why Mr. Krabs needs Squidward. Well, there might be 2 reasons you guys are thinking of. Either it's because of the Krabby Patty secret formula, or because he's the success. He's made the Krabby Patties, there's no way he doesn't know what's inside of them, right? It's probably the reason Krabs wants to keep Squidward under any circumstances. Well, he actually doesn't.
Hey, y'all, listen, y'all already know Mr. Krab, he be killing them crabs and lobsters. Krabby Patty, that's all I'm gonna say, bro. I ain't gonna say too much, bro. Hey, y'all, that boy Eugene is a criminal, man. He a drug lord, bro. I'm just saying, bro.
In the episode Sweet and Sour Squid, Plankton tries to learn the formula from Squidward. But by the end of the episode, Squidward reveals that he actually doesn't know the ingredients of the Krabby Patty, despite working there for 20 years.
You work in the same place for 20 years and you've never noticed the ingredients of the sole item on your menu?
So it can't be the reason Krabs wants to keep Squidward. The other reason Krabs might want to keep Squidward is because Squidward is supposed to be the successor to Mr. Krabs. In the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Squidward was crowned the manager of the Krusty Krab 2 instead of SpongeBob. Because of this, it seems that Mr. Krabs wants to keep Squidward around to give him the restaurant in the future. But this all gets thrown out the window by the end of the movie when Mr. Krabs gives the job to SpongeBob. And this isn't even the main reason Krabs would never hand off the restaurant to Squidward. Have you guys ever noticed that Mr. Krabs never really respected Squidward? In episodes like The Big Switch, Chum Fricassee, or Out of the Picture, Mr. Krabs disrespected Squidward so badly to the point where he would never give him the restaurant in a million years.
I don't value you at all.
Well, there's one more thing we haven't considered. Squidward's paycheck. Mr. Krabs can pay Squidward next to nothing and he'll tolerate it. Because of this, Squidward can't be replaced, because Krabs can get away with paying him next to nothing. Compare that to anyone else who's worked in Squidward's position, and you'll see just how important he is to Mr. Krabs. In the episode Summer Job, Mrs. Puff worked at the Krusty Krab for free for destroying the restaurant. During this time, Squidward was given the summer off, but Mrs. Puff hours after because her own boyfriend was trying to exploit her. Then, in the episode Squid on Strike, a bunch of teenagers worked in place of Squidward and SpongeBob after they went on strike, but they were fired once Mr. Krabs couldn't deal with them any longer. Old Man Walker also worked one of Squidward's shifts in the episode Pineapple Harvey. If he was even being paid, he was probably paid the same as Squidward. The difference is that he was struggling in his job. SpongeBob also worked the register many times. One of the examples was in the episode Squid's Day Off, but being the fry cook, he couldn't do both things. Mr. Krabs also worked the register in the episode Squiditis after SpongeBob and Squidward got sick, going after both of his employees left. Patrick also worked the register in the episode Big Pink Loser, where it was revealed that he was paying Mr. Krabs $50 an hour just to work there.
And at $50 an hour too. When I started working here, I had to pay Mr. Krabs $100 an hour.
Even though Krabs
$100 an hour, man, what the fuck? I ain't paying on that. I ain't gonna say that.
Krabs would love that deal, Patrick just couldn't run the register. Larry the Lobster also worked as a cashier in the Krusty Krab in the episode Larry the Floor Manager when Mr. Krabs goes on vacation. He did it out of the goodness of his heart, but he did end up trying to change the entire restaurant to be more healthy. Believe it or not, Plankton has also worked at the Krusty Krab in the episode Chum Caverns when Mr. Krabs forced him to work the register because Squidward wasn't there. Obviously, Plankton won't work for Krabs in the long term. Another person who worked the register at the Krusty Krab was Stanley in the episode Stanley S. SquarePants. In the episode, Stanley destroyed everything he touched, so clearly Krabs wasn't going to keep him for too long. The last person on this list is Karen, who worked as a cashier in the episode Karen 2.0 until her and Plankton settled their differences. She was being paid nothing, which is interesting as despite getting a free cashier, he still didn't let go of Squidward. Why would a cheapskate like Krabs keep paying Squidward when he doesn't need him? The only reason he would do so is because he knows that he can pay him next to nothing and exploit him for his work. From everyone else he's hired, he knows no one else would dehumanize themselves to the extent Squidward does. Because of this, Krabs keeps Squidward no matter what. Just to give a few more examples, in the episode Can You Spare a Dime, Mr. Krabs doesn't fire Squidward after thinking he stole his dime. After all the ruckus he made about his dime, the only reason he would do so is to hold on to Squidward. Another example was in the episode Krusty Chronosaries, where Mr. Krabs doesn't let Squidward die in peace so he can work him tonight. But the best example was in the episode Yeti Krabs, where Mr. Krabs admits that he's trying to get a full day's worth of work out of Squidward despite there being no work to do.
My problem is that you aren't working, which means I lose MUNEE. You get back to minding that register.
Minding it for...
I lose MUNEE.
MU? He said...
You get back to minding that register.
Minding it for which customer?
One final piece of information to really wrap this up was in the episode The Original Frog.
Oh, thanks. I'm just doing this until my clarinet career.
Also, remember this clip, because it's going to be very important later. As we see in the episode, when Jim asks for a raise, he gets laughed out of the room and eventually quits. So Squidward is still being paid what he was being paid nearly 20 years ago when he first started working at the Krusty Krab. If Squidward had the balls to quit, he too could have had a career like Jim, but sadly, he's not as talented or brave as Jim is. Because of this, Squidward is a perfect guy for Mr. Krabs to exploit. It's clear why Mr. Krabs would want to keep Squidward, but does Squidward want to stay at the Krusty Krab?
That's a good
Part
question.
5, Squidward's wants. From the get-go, we've known Squidward always wanted a career with his clarinet. However, due to being less successful, he's tried his hands at art and dance as well. But he's failed nearly every step of the way. He can only blame himself. Or can he? In episodes like Suction Cup Symphony, Artist Unknown, Band Geeks, Squidward Tentacle Pants, Best Day Ever, and The Patty Caper, Squidward succeeds in his artistic dreams. Does that mean that Squidward is actually talented and in reality people like his work? Well, No. In other episodes like I Heart Dancing, Choir Boys, Are You Happy Now, and Snooze You Lose, Squidward shows no talent in what he does. So does that mean he sucks? Well, there's one interesting thing in the episode Best Day Ever that might explain everything. After Squidward does a brilliant concert, Patrick makes fun of Squidward for not knowing how to play the clarinet.
Don't let those sour notes bring you down.
This would explain that people hate Squidward because he's Squidward, not because of his music.
Since when do you give two shrimps about customer service, Mr. Grouchy Squid Guy?
We see more of this in the episode Slimy Dancing, and especially in the episode Squidward. Squidward does something everyone hates, but then SpongeBob does the exact same thing and suddenly everyone loves it. They hate his performance because he's Squidward. And this would explain the endings to a lot of episodes, because episodes like Suction Cup Symphony, Artist Unknown, Band Geeks, and Best Day Ever all ended with Squidward succeeding in the industry yet nothing ever coming of it. Because he's Squidward, nothing will ever come of anything no matter what he does. But there might be one reason, another person who's causing Squidward not to succeed in the arts. That's right, Mr. Krabs.
Arby's deep fried turkey is back.
Thought he about to say
Get
Squidward.
thankful.
Thought he about to say Squidward.
Krabs. We already know that Krabs wants to exploit Squidward, and to do so, Squidward can't be successful enough to leave the restaurant. And do you remember the first clip?
I sent him my play, and now he's gonna produce it. I quit.
But would he go out of it to destroy Squidward's career just to force him to stay? Well, surprisingly, yes.
If you two do find that clip,
Mr. Krabs commercializes the hate towards Squidward after people want to throw things at him for his performance. But there's more than just that. In the episode The Masterpiece, Mr. Krabs has Squidward make a sculpture of him, not telling him what the sculpture is going to be used for. By the end of the episode, Mr. Krabs changes his mind and doesn't display the sculpture he made, making it harder for Squidward to get noticed. But the biggest example of Krabs sabotaging Squidward was in the episode Hello Bikini Bottom. In the episode, Squidward and SpongeBob get picked up as a musical duo by Colonel Caper, who's a band manager. Just as they start to dream of fame and success, Mr. Krabs comes out of nowhere and takes over as their manager to get in on the money. If he didn't do that, then SpongeBob and Squidward would have become really successful. Because of his greed, not only did he hurt his own chances of becoming rich, but he also sabotages Squidward's career. And do you remember the clip from before?
No thanks. I'm just doing this until my clarinet career takes off.
If Squidward doesn't make it big, then he can never leave the Krusty Krab. The real kicker is that this was Squidward's first chance to make it big, and Krabs sabotaged it. And this isn't crazy because in the same episode, Mr. Krabs is surprised to see that Squidward and SpongeBob pulled a crowd with their music. Now it may seem a bit far-fetched, and I'll leave it up to your judgment. What is 100% true though, is that Mr. Krabs has made it so Squidward can't quit. He's put him in a cycle, and the cycle goes as follows. First, Squidward quits his job, hoping he makes it big in the arts. Then he fails to get anything done in the industry. After being denied from music, he can't find a job because the people hate him. Because he can't find a job, he has to come back to the Krusty Krab. Mr. Krabs knows he can't leave and exploits his services. The cycle goes every time Squidward gets the idea to quit. Because of this, we see Squidward get scared whenever Mr. Krabs threatens to fire him.
damn till you're fired.
You got it, Mr. Krabs.
This would also explain sometimes when Squidward is actually happy to be fired. Those might be the moments when he actually wants to pursue his music career, but he's just needing that little push.
So, I'm fired? No more taking orders? No more interacting with customers? No more SpongeBob?
But Mr. Krabs might not just be sabotaging Squidward's music career. In the episode Whatever Happened to SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs says that Squidward will be out of a job forever if he doesn't help find SpongeBob.
If you don't find him, you'll be out of a job forever.
When he says that, I think he doesn't just mean the Krusty Krab, but also from all of Bikini Bottom. Mr. Krabs has decided to ruin Squidward's life for his own gain. By sabotaging his music and professional career, he's made sure that Squidward is stuck in a loop which always leads him back to the Krusty Krab. I think Mr. Krabs saw just how successful Jim became and made sure that no other employee had the balls to leave and become more successful than him. It's depressing, but it seems that we'll never know if Squidward gets out of the Krusty Krab and makes it big. Well, maybe we do know. In the season 14 episode PL1413, Plankton goes 2,000 years in the future. As he's exploring the future, Karen tells him about what happened to Squidward. Squidward did end up becoming a famous musician, but only after his passing, meaning that he suffered the rest of his life in the Krusty Krab. It's a depressing ending, but thank you for watching.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. That's sad, bro. Alright, damn. Let me see the comments here, though, bro. Let me see the comments here. Damn. I ain't thought about that, bro. That's kind of crazy. I don't know, man. I don't know. I ain't know my business. I kind of like Buddy video. I like his video.
Bikini Bottom is a populated city, which looks normal at first, but the more you dig in, the more you realize that it's being run by one fish, who's destroying the entire city for their own selfish desires. Welcome to the... Who's really in charge of Bikini Bottom? Surely it's the mayor, right? Well then why does Squidward talk about the president of Bikini Bottom in the episode Good Neighbors? Also, isn't King Neptune the ruler of the sea? So wouldn't that make him in charge? And in all of this, where do Gary and Patrick fit into? Well, let's start with the mention of the president of Bikini Bottom. In the episode Good Neighbor, Patrick tells Squidward that now he's the president.
Me? President of Bikini Bottom?
Squidward, stupidly, thinks that he's suddenly become the president of Bikini Bottom.
Bruh.
But we don't see an actual person who's the president, just a mention of them. This makes it easy to assume that the sea has other countries that have presidents, which Bikini Bottom knows about, but Bikini Bottom itself doesn't have a president. This would mean that it's surely the mayor who's in charge of Bikini Bottom, right? Well, I should be more specific in that Bikini Bottom has had more than just one mayor. Between seasons 1 and 7, it's the Green Mayor that we all know. However, in the season 7 episode Sponge Kano, there seems to be a new mayor known as Mr. Mayor, who's in charge of the city. After that, the Green Mayor comes back, where he stays until season 12. In the season 12 episode, the SpongeBob musical Live on Stage, we're introduced to a new mayor known as Miss Mayor. She's still the mayor of Bikini Bottom to this day. This constant change in mayors shows that Bikini Bottom is clearly a democratic city, which elects its mayors based on the choice of voters. But if that's the case, then how can we explain King Neptune? Because of his god status, couldn't he have a claim to the seat of power in Bikini Bottom, or even the entire sea? Well, the best way to understand the division of power in Bikini Bottom would be through the real-life country of the United Kingdom. They have a prime minister who would be the mayor in Bikini Bottom. But they also have a king who has no real say in what happens but represents the UK. Similarly, King Neptune, being a god, doesn't have time to run individual cities. He doesn't have a say as to what happens, but he represents them and most likely other nations within the seas. With all that out of the way, we get to the hardest and most complicated story to explain. Patrick and Gary. In the episode Rule of Dumb, we learn that Patrick and eventually Gary are both royalty. SpongeBob himself calls them both king. But what are they the king of? Bikini Bottom? Or maybe something bigger? To figure out, let's go back in their family tree. Looking back, we can see that the oldest ancestor to the both of them is King Amoeba, who used to be the king of Bikini Bottom a long time ago. This would make Gary the new king of Bikini Bottom. But if Bikini Bottom is a democratic city with a government, then how does it have a king? To answer that, we have to go to the past. One of the few episodes from a long time ago is Dunces and Dragons. However, in the episode, we see that an ancestor of Mr. Krabs is the king of Bikini Bottom. Apart from that being another Krabs versus Plankton story, we learn that Krabs once used to be royalty. From Squidward's ancestor in the same episode, we learn that this was about 210 years ago, before the modern timeline.
If I never learn to play with ease, may mine own great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson be cursed tenfold.
This would mean that about 210 years ago, Krabs and his ancestors used to be kings. But then why isn't Mr. Krabs a king in the modern Bikini Bottom? Well, from the family tree, we know that King Amoeba was a king 120 years ago, which is about 4 generations. This would mean that for whatever reason, the Krabs family lost their royalty status and King Amoeba took over. This would also explain why most of Krabs' relatives are known to be pirates in the episode Grandpappy the Pirate. So if King Amoeba took over all that time ago, then why isn't Gary regarded as the king of Bikini Bottom? Once again, it's the family tree that's going to explain everything.
Wow.
If we look at the generation before Patrick's parents, then we can see that they were dressed in Wild West clothing,
the title
which
is
takes
just
us to
something,
the
though,
episode Pest of the West. In the episode,
not
we
good.
learn that Patrick's great-great-great-uncle did a heroic act which he was known for. A great-great-great relative would be around roughly 90 years ago, which is before the Wild West, but after the Renaissance period. Looking at their clothing, it looks to be what we would call the 1600s in our timeline. Also, if you look at the generation after King Amoeba, they look to be dressed in similar clothing. Basically, this proves that the Wild West happened before episodes like Dunces and Dragons. Looking at the real Wild West, there were no kings, only sheriffs and mayors. So sometime before the Wild West era, the monarchy would have been dissolved and a democratic system would have taken place. Because of that, the king of Bikini Bottom has no real power over the city because the monarchy was dissolved. They would be similar to King Neptune, except they wouldn't be a god. Quick side note, one thing that always puzzled me in the family tree was how Patrick's grandfather had Patrick's father all by himself. Doing a little research, I found out that some sea stars can actually reproduce asexually, meaning that they can basically duplicate themselves, which is pretty cool. Going back to the video, we now know that it's players who are part of the democratic system and actually run the city. But then how do we explain incidents like this?
I watch the Knicks, bro.
Especially after your little whirly bird.
We're gonna do this if it kills us. And one. And if
they wanted you to have this.
Those specific cases are some of many that we've seen throughout the entire show. Apart from the idea that we see in the later seasons of Random Equals Funny, the show writers write these scenarios to show us more than they're letting on. The crimes are usually ignored and the episode goes on without acknowledging them ever again. In the episode Bubble Buddy kills Scooter, which is shown and then ignored so that everyone else can kill Bubble Buddy. Then in the episode Sandy's Rocket, we learn that SpongeBob killed hundreds with Sandy's Whirlybird. It's then ignored and never comes up again, which makes it one of the greatest mysteries in the entire show. Also, in the episode Sing a Song of Patrick, Patrick makes a song which a band has to play. After playing the song, the entire band dies. Once again, it's shown and then never comes up nor is mentioned again. Finally, in the episode Enemy-in-Law, Plankton ravages the entire town just to impress Mr. Krabs' mother. Yet again, it's shown, ignored, and then never mentioned again. In all these episodes, serious crimes are committed, ignored, and then never mentioned again. Now that we know that Bikini Bottom is a democratic city, it raises the question of how this is even allowed in the first place. If there's a functioning government which is in charge of Bikini Bottom, then why aren't they able to control what's happening with their population? The only one who could stop them would be the police. If we look at Bikini Bottom, the police stick out like a sore thumb. They usually aren't doing their job most of the time. The few times they are working, they act really stupid. Some examples include, at the start of the episode Doing Time, we see 2 police officers beating a parking meter for no real reason. After seeing SpongeBob, they decide to chase him after seeing him destroy the town, but only because he doesn't have a license plate.
That guy had no front license plate, let's get him!
During the episode Party Pooper Pants, they arrest SpongeBob for not inviting them to his party. At the start of the episode, SpongeBob meets the Strangler, they arrest the Strangler, and once he escapes, they don't really care, despite him being a huge criminal. They then don't even try to catch him until SpongeBob forces him into prison. At the end of the episode, Professor Squidward, they arrest Squidward for impersonating Squilliam. Apart from that last one, the cops are clearly not the smartest. While they do have their smart moments in episodes like Good Old What's His Name, Summer Job, and Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy, looking at all the examples, we see that as the show goes on, the police get smarter. The police act stupid in the Season 3 episode Doing Time, the Season 3 episode Party Pooper Pants, the Season 3 episode SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, and the Season 2 episode No Free Rides. So why are they acting stupid at the start? Was someone controlling them to be stupid? The only one who can do that would be the police chief because he's the only one who's over them and gives them orders. But what about someone higher, like the police commissioner? He could be the one behind it all. But there's just one more person who's over the commissioner, who gives him orders and tells him to do whatever he wants. The mayor of Bikini Bottom.
Damn, well, that mayor shady,
Like I mentioned before, there's been 3 mayors of Bikini Bottom throughout the entire show. The Green Mayor, who served between seasons 1 and 7, and then again between seasons 8 and 12, Mr. Mayor, who's been seen just in the episode Sponge Kano, and Miss Mayor, who's still the mayor of Bikini Bottom. Knowing what we know about the police, it seems that they were stupid mainly during when the Green Mayor was serving his term. But that could be a coincidence, right? It probably is, because the police sometimes are smart when he's in charge. An example we see was in the episode Professor Squidward. The police arrest Squidward for impersonating Squilliam, which is a big crime. It seems that the Green Mayor had nothing to do with this, until you realize that that specific operation was led by Squilliam, who's kinda smart. This would mean that the police did nothing to figure out that Squidward was lying. They just ran in and arrested Squidward. There are other episodes like this, like in the episode The Getaway, where the police are smart when the Green Mayor's in charge, but it's all a result of someone else, not the police themselves. It could be the examples we've gone through, but it seems that the episode The Wreck of the Mauna Loa, the police cracked down and were able to arrest Mr. Krabs for his crimes. At the time, Mr. Mayor was in charge. Episode Sponge Kano. In the season 8 episode, Mr. Krabs takes a vacation, the police are too incompetent to catch robbers to the point where they had to land in their car. This time, it was the Green Mayor who was in charge. In the season 7 episode, Keep Bikini Bottom Beautiful, a cop kept giving Squidward a ticket despite it not being his fault. What's interesting is that it was earlier than the episode Sponge Kano, meaning that the Green Mayor was still in charge. One of the few times the police were actually smart with the Green Mayor was in the episode Fiasco, where they chased Plankton to get a piece of art. In the season 5 episode Goo Goo Gas, the police let Plankton run away after they arrested him. This episode happened before the Green Mayor became the new mayor of New Kelp City, so yet again it's under his reign. I should have probably mentioned that at one point the Green Mayor was the mayor of New Kelp City in the episode Whatever Happened to SpongeBob, but after handing that to SpongeBob he left and became the mayor of Bikini Bottom again. It seems that for most of the time when the Green Mayor's in charge, the police are magically stupid. It's clear that he might have something going on behind the scenes, which is making Bikini Bottom more unsafe.
I can see it, bro. Real talk. I can see it. I'm gonna skip this out, bro. My cursor, whatever. I like videos like this, y'all. They have you thinking. I'm just here to make y'all think, bro.
The Green Mayor has something going on behind the scenes, which is somehow destroying the town. To figure out more about his character and what he's like, let's go through every appearance he makes to uncover what he might be doing. His very first appearance was in the episode Doing Time, where we see him opening an unfinished bridge, which a lot of people are there to watch. A pretty...
I don't even remember looking at that, bro. Why? What? Bro, why he even... Bro. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, this man got to be restarted, bro. He got to be restarted.
The obvious question is why he's opening a bridge that's not ready for cars. What's the point of declaring it officially open? If anything, it becomes a safety hazard, which we see slow down the bridge. This makes us question the authority of the mayor and if he's even competent to run the town. After that, we see him in the episode The Great Snail Race, where he gives an opening speech before the games begin. There's nothing much to say about him because he basically does nothing. Then, in Season 5, in the episode Whatever Happened to SpongeBob, he's seen as the mayor of New Kelp City. He makes SpongeBob the new mayor and retires. He probably went back to being the mayor of Bikini Bottom. After that, in the episode Porous Pockets, we see the mayor inside SpongeBob's new house after he became rich. SpongeBob has a rich club meeting going on and the mayor is one of the people attending. The club has about 497 members who are all lent money from SpongeBob, which includes the mayor. But why is the mayor of Bikini Bottom asking SpongeBob for money? We see other people do it because they're broke. But unlike them, the mayor would not be broke because he's in a high position in the town. Him asking for money despite being well off shows that he might be a greedy person. Also, knowing that every person there asks SpongeBob for money, it seems that the mayor has no shame in hiding his greediness. Then in the episode Drive-Thru, the mayor actually does something smart for once and asks Mr. Krabs to do something about the lines in front of his drive-thrus. This time, he seems to care about the town, but this only happens after basically the entire town is waiting in line to get a Krabby Patty. While he actually did something good, it seems it was too late. After that, in the episode Safe Deposit Crabs, the mayor declares the Bank of Bikini Bottom Bank open for business. But unlike the last time he declared something, the bank was actually open to customers. It all seems fine until Mr. Krabs manages to break into the vault by accident. Not only is it the fault of the police that he's in there, but also he's able to stay the entire night before they even notice him in there, which all happens because of SpongeBob. Yet again, the police acted brain dead when the Green Mayor was in charge, and this time he was even connected to the crime that happened. Then in the episode Food Con Castaways, the Green Mayor isn't even the mayor but instead a food judge. He somehow doesn't recognize SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs, or even the Krabby Patty, despite knowing them all from before. He doesn't really do anything that could be bad, so there's nothing to look for. Finally, his latest appearance is in the episode Say Aw, where he and Miss Mayor are both eaten by Plankton's robot. It seems that it's Miss Mayor who's in charge of the town, which shows that the Green Mayor wasn't the only bad mayor Bikini Bottom had. With all that, we see that the Green Mayor is incompetent and greedy, two attributes which don't make a good leader. We see his incompetence in episodes like Doing Time and Safe Deposit Crabs. We also see his greediness in the episode Porous Pockets. Because of how incompetent he is, he can't run the town correctly, and his greediness only makes it worse, because he would destroy the town for a quick buck. But to truly test his greediness, we have to see if he's doing anything else which could earn him some money at the expense of the town. To test his greediness, we have to look at the two most dangerous and rich people in the entire show, Mr. Krabs and Plankton, specifically their prison records. If they appear too suspicious, then we know that the mayor is messing with them for money. Let's start off with Mr. Krabs. Like various main characters in the show, Mr. Krabs has a prison record. From his record, we can see if the mayor is letting him off easier. He gets arrested at the end of the episode The Smoking Peanut. Considering the crime was big, we know that he was arrested, but we don't actually know when he was let go. Then he avoids prison in the episode The Krusty Sponge, when he convinces the warden to ride the train as much as he wants. After that, he avoids prison in the episode The Patty Caper. He puts the blame on SpongeBob, but the police catch him. He's forced to give away free Krabby Patties, which is a worse crime for him than jail. He gets arrested in the episode The Wreck of the Mauna Loa for running a dangerous amusement park. We don't know how long he served for his crimes. He gets arrested in the episode The Krusty Slammer for letting prisoners leave before their sentences were over. We don't know when he's let go. It seems that most of the time, Krabs is forced to do his time in jail for the crimes he commits. He's only been able to escape punishment once when he lets the judge ride the SpongeBob train. This would mean that the mayor hasn't been pulling any special favors for Krabs, and so at least for Krabs, he isn't destroying the town for money. Now let's look at his record, which is more interesting because he's been to jail more times than Krabs. In the episode Goo Goo Gas, Plankton gets arrested and escapes just a few seconds later in front of the police arresting him. It seems that the cops don't take Plankton too seriously, but to neglect someone you're arresting is beyond stupid. But this is just a one-off, right? Then he gets arrested and escapes prison in the episode Krabby Road. They also reveal that Plankton is the most dangerous criminal in town.
I'll let you peek at our #1 inmate. He's too dangerous to let him around the other inmates.
Which makes the last example even worse. It doesn't make this one any better because he's able to escape very easily. Despite his cell being separated from everyone else, there's no guards guarding the cell to make sure he doesn't escape. At the end of the episode, he does get arrested again and is put into a different jail, but it won't be surprising if he escapes that as well, considering how little the guards care for what they call the most dangerous prisoner in the entire city. He gets arrested at the end of the episode Sweet and Sour Squid. However, unlike any other time, this time he wasn't guilty and was probably let go after clearing his name. He gets arrested at the end of the episode Fiasco after being chased by the police the entire episode. He's made to be kept in prison specifically because of Mr. Krabs. It's one of the few times Plankton isn't shown to escape before his sentence is over. In the episode Jailbreak, we see exactly how Plankton escapes jail. From the episode, we see that Plankton is treated as just another prisoner, even though the police consider Plankton to be a huge threat, which is very suspicious. Then in the episode The Krusty Slammer, Plankton gets arrested, but since the jail is full, he's let go. Once again, the most dangerous person in Bikini Bottom is let free because there's no space. But that's not even the worst part. As the episode goes on, Mr. Krabs decides to take the prisoners into the Krusty Krab for a ton of money, including Plankton. But just after 2 days in jail, which is just Mr. Krabs' office with the formula outside the safe, Plankton is released for trying to steal the formula. Once again, the most dangerous criminal is released in just 2 days. But maybe that's the amount of time he serves every time, right? Well, in the episode Jailbreak, Karen brings a cake for Plankton with the amount of time Plankton's been in jail for. Maybe the tally is just for aesthetics, but Karen usually never visits Plankton when he gets arrested. So this time, it shows that maybe he's been in there for a lot longer than 2 days. Also, if his sentence ended after just 2 days every time, then why would he even bother to escape? This time was different. Another episode to talk about is the episode Enemy-in-Law, where he takes a lot of fish hostage and destroys the town, but doesn't even go to jail for it. So to recap, Plankton has been arrested and been able to escape nearly
that boy Plankton like Mega Man
every time. He's barely guarded despite being considered the most dangerous prisoner and is let go way earlier than we see him in previous episodes when he's guarded by Mr. Krabs. But do you know what the craziest part is? All of these examples, every time Plankton has easily escaped from jail, it's been the Green Mayor who's in charge of Bikini Bottom. Even the episode The Krusty Slammer, which is from season 12, happened before the new mayor came to power. It seems that the Green Mayor is doing some shady work to let Plankton out of jail every time he gets put in. Because we know that the mayor is greedy, it's pretty obvious that he's doing it for the money. This is mutually beneficial because the mayor gets money, and Plankton gets out early so he can try to steal the formula again. But how does the mayor let Plankton out each time? Wouldn't people get suspicious? From all the episodes, it seems that some of the police see Plankton as a threat, while others don't care. It would mean that not all the police are in on Plankton's scheme to escape every time easily. So how does the mayor do all this? Well, knowing he's the mayor, there's one final connection he has that helps him let Plankton out every time. This is the police commissioner in Bikini Bottom. He's above the chief of police as well as the warden. His only boss is the mayor himself. But looking at the commissioner, he looks an awful lot like the mayor himself. They're both green, they both wear top hats, and they both wear fancy looking clothing. The commissioner has only been mentioned twice in the entire show. We hear in the episode Shuffleboarding that the police commissioner asked for Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy to appear as celebrity guests for some event. After that, we see him in the episode What's Eating Patrick, where he gives out the prize for the Krabby Patty eating contest. From what we can tell, he seems to pride his position as he has a sash with Commissioner written on it. Because of their similarities, the Commissioner and the Mayor could be related or know each other in some way. This is probably how the Mayor is able to let Plankton out each time. After Plankton's arrest, the Commissioner makes sure Plankton is let go, and because he's so powerful, they let him go. The Mayor of Bikini Bottom is an incompetent mayor who's unfit to run the city. He's seen opening unfinished bridges, taking money from his own citizens to feed his greed, and projects like the bank he's part of get broken into quite easily. Because of his incompetence, we see why the jail is so full at the end of his time as mayor. He's run the town so low that people need to commit crimes just to get by. But they all pale in comparison to letting out one of the most dangerous people out of prison.
I'm looking sleepy, man. I ain't lying, bro. Hey, if I wake back up, y'all, I'll get back on stream later at night, y'all. But as I see, I'm about to sleep on a little live, bro. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, bro. You know. But listen, though, man. Y'all know I love y'all, bro. I know I love y'all, and I'm out, bro.